Welcome to the program. The powerful gambling lobby is stepping up pressure on the federal government to dump or weaken planned poker machine reform. James Pack has appointed Labor's former National Secretary, Carl Batar, to lobby the government. But it's a dicey area for Labor because its grip on power rests on the support of federal independent MP Andrew Wilkie, and he's insisting on laws forcing pokies players to preset how much they're going to spend. Next Tuesday is the deadline for states to voluntarily get on board with the scheme, but so far most are resisting. They're warning that small clubs with pokies in country towns will collapse under the reforms, as National Affairs correspondent Heather Hewitt reports from the Riverina.
Bruce, just narrow it down a bit. Same way.
It's the weekday competition at Finley Bowling Club in the New South Wales Riverina.
A bit wider, Ken.
A social hub for local businessmen, retirees and farmers who are slowly recovering from years of drought.
Oh, God, that was shocking.
Inside the club rooms are 18 poker machines, the mainstay for club revenue during tough times.
You got $1 machine.
Oh, well, why didn't you tell me?
You only had one push.
All of this is now considered by club members and management to be at risk because of independent MP Andrew Wilkie's push for pokie players to set mandatory limits on how much they're prepared to lose before they start gambling.
The impact will be dramatic and immediate. Poker machine revenues 40% of our income, and that could virtually disappear overnight.
What's known in the industry as pre-commitment has this club in uproar. They don't want to play the game if they're being told how to play it.
Certainly the casual player won't put themselves through the process, and even the more regular player, the indications I'm getting are they're not happy with it and they don't anticipate registering, which means that they can't become a player.
And that, this manager claims, means potential club closures and up to 40 employees at various venues in Finley losing their jobs, with dire consequences for the whole town.
That's income lost, that's money that's not being spent down the main street in the businesses, in the butchers, the bakers and the supermarket, and dramatic. People leave town, the flow-ons, it's horrific, terrible.
There are 3 clubs in Finley with pokies, the bowling club, the RSL and the golf club, and between them they have a total of 67 machines. That's for a town of just 2,000 people, though there are hundreds in the outlying rural community. While there may be some problem gambling here, you won't find too many people in this town who think pokey reform is a good idea. And that's because they fear it's going to take away much-needed revenue from local sporting teams. The butcher, Ashley Haynes, knows better than most how much, for example, the Finley football team relies heavily on sponsorship from the clubs with poker machines. He's the footy club president.
If there was to be a downturn there, I'm sure that would have an adverse effect on our club. We didn't win a game for 2 years when the drought was at its peak, so we've only won 3 games this year. We need to win games to keep people interested in the sport, and as we all know, we need to play sport.
Okay, off we go.
Over the past 5 years, the 3 clubs with pokies have donated more than $300,000 to local sports groups and charities. Though they don't declare what percentage of their profits this is, the footy club is a major beneficiary.
It also enables us to do things like Thursday nights we have meals. Now they're discounted meals. We put on a lovely meal, sometimes 2-course.
Dan Darling, there's yours.
On this footy training night, 100 locals show up for soup and roast beef rolls, all subsidised by the pokies and served by volunteers.
So you're happy with the roll-up here tonight?
Oh, wrap the roll-up tonight. Look, there's a lot of families here again, and look, we're a small community club, and that's what we're all about.
So your $10 you put in the poker machine, you just wouldn't do it?
The local federal member is part of the gathering and vows to back the anti-pokey reform sentiment all the way.
I've got 66 clubs in the electorate of Farrer, and I talk to them regularly, and I estimate that over $90 million of funding could go out of our local communities. So I'm quite frightened about this. They've suffered enough. This is a king hit coming down the track, and we don't like it.
Across Bass Strait, Andrew Wilkie knows he's not just up against the federal opposition, but also a powerful multi-million-dollar campaign by the gambling lobby and big clubs in the city. He insists country towns like Finley have nothing to fear.
I'm not anti-clubs, and I want to see that support to continue. Now, clubs that have a low level of problem gambling, they will see very little change in their cash flow, so that important role of subsidising the local community will be largely unchanged.
He does have one ally in the Finley region, and that's the Salvation Army's David Day, who regularly finds households in these parts struggling to put food on the table because of a family member's easy access to pokies.
People try to hide it away because it can be hidden away. In my experience, I do see a lot of people who have a problem with gambling, and it seems as though, in speaking with them, that the problem stems from, majority of them, is poker machines.
Do you reckon there is some problem gambling in this town?
Like every town, I think there is, yes. I don't think any town would say they're exempt of problem gambling, but I think this new rule's not going to save that. I think it'll send people inside. They can still gamble inside in their own bedrooms and nobody will ever know on computers.
Do you think that the Wilkie reforms to the use of pokies is on the right track?
We need to not give up. We need to be trying something, and I believe that if we at least even trial these reforms, at least we can say we're trying to do something for people who struggle with this addiction.
As next week's deadline looms for the states to voluntarily come on board, the signs are not promising. The federal government says its door is always open, but it will now have to get on with drafting legislation to get the reforms through Parliament within 12 months, or Andrew Wilkie withdraws his crucial backing of Labor.
It is virtually inconceivable that these reforms will not progress. But I don't shy away from the fact that my support for the government hinges on it. I'm a man of my word.
As negotiations continue, the government is looking at giving special consideration to small clubs in country towns like Finley. And local member Susan Lay is stepping up the pressure.
I'll be lobbying all of my colleagues and certainly the independent members of the lower house to think very carefully about the effect it will have in their community. Everyone won't have 66 small clubs in the same way that I do, but every rural member knows the reliance that their rural communities place on the local clubs in the small towns.
So I'm confident the government is genuinely on side, and I'm confident I'll have the numbers on the crossbench when it comes to the vote.
How many certainties?
Back at the Finley Bowling Club, they're bracing for the worst and already looking at money-making alternatives.
Which is putting the price of beer up to $4 a middy, which is unheard of around here. I know it's probably commonplace in the city, but putting your beer up and that's driving people to perhaps drink at home and be less sociable.
Can't afford to pay tomorrow night.
And that's no trivial matter for a town that appears to thrive on being sociable. Under current recommendations, it will be 2014 before these reforms take effect, or 2018 for clubs with 15 machines or less. And only then will it be known whether their fears were warranted.